Five, four, three. CGP Video Pictures presents Trek Tonight, Season 3. This week, Doctor Who. With your hosts, Christopher Pitcher, Leo Byrne-Janicek, and Gina Pitcher. Tonight's program, Wild Blue Yonder. And now live from New York City and Wilmington, Delaware, it's Trek Tonight. Hey there, Whovians, and welcome to Trek Tonight. We are continuing our little series on the Doctor Who specials. This is part 2 that we just looked at last Saturday. And I'm thrilled because I have Gina with me tonight, and Gina may know more about the new Doctor Who than almost anybody I know.
Probably because I've seen it about 5 times.
Yes, exactly. How are you, Leo?
I'm doing okay. I'm, like I say, walking and talking.
Yep.
As best as I can.
Cool.
This was a fun episode. Oh, by the way, happy Hanukkah. There's a first night of Hanukkah to anybody who celebrates.
Right.
Oh, yes, happy Hanukkah.
So,
Yes,
like the menorah, if you have one.
Yes, I do not. Although I have a beautiful painting of a menorah that I won at an auction, and we used to have it up in the house, and we called it our baffler because people would come over to visit and didn't know whether we were Jewish or Christian because we had this painting of a menorah.
There you go. Well, you got to keep your house guests on their toes.
On their toes, yes, exactly.
And put a Buddha in front of it. And
right, exactly. That's what we needed. Anyway, I haven't been watching the news today, so I don't have any news.
Most of the news is terrible, generally speaking. So, but we're here to talk about a more uplifting world, the world of the Doctor. Although he certainly deals with a lot of negative people and beings and situations, but his optimism, I think, is one of his greatest weapons. It's an interesting show. It's very British. Because Doctor doesn't carry a gun, he's a sonic screwdriver,
right?
Which is sort of like a magic wand, but he doesn't. He's very rarely. I don't think I've ever seen him use it for like offensive purposes. He's never like try to beam out of it or anything like that. Gina,
well, not that I know.
There you go. There's an excellent song that Craig Ferguson did for his old TV show, and he was a huge Doctor Who fan. Yeah, and also mates with Peter Capaldi, the not the previous Doctor, but the previous Doctor.
Right.
And they were in a punk band together in their youth. So
I knew that. Yes.
So this was a very interesting episode because, as we talked about briefly, tonally a big change from last week's episode, which was like a lot of action, a lot of people running around.
Yep.
Unit was there, and there's a lot of like.
Yeah. Lots of humor.
A lot of humor.
Yeah. So. And again, you mentioned the sonic screwdriver, but in this episode, he didn't have it.
Well, he was the
TARDIS took off with it stuck in the keyhole.
Yeah, the TARDIS spilled coffee on it. You'd think the TARDIS, when they rebuild itself, might put like some sort of protection against spills.
Or not have a coffee maker on the main control console.
Yeah, like if you're going to put a coffee maker on the main control, you got to get some kind of WeatherTech situation going on with that. Yeah. They're not a sponsor. I've just seen the commercials.
The cup phone.
They need the cup phone. I keep expecting that under my tree, and it never shows up.
The cup phone?
Yeah, it's a thing that WeatherTech sells.
Oh, okay.
They advertise it every Christmas. The cup phone. I don't know why it's the cup phone because it's not a phone. It's a cup for your phone, I guess.
Oh, to put in your car. Yeah.
I
Well,
guess. Yeah.
Well,
I still
there
don't
you go.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's a hard knock life.
I don't have a chia pet either, so that
there's a chia pet. Just to go off the tangent, I saw a commercial for chia pets, and they had like I think a Hello Kitty, and there was another, but one of them was Wednesday from the new Wednesday Netflix. But here's the thing:
yeah,
she doesn't grow. She just sort of is. I think her fingers maybe temple, but she's looking down at this thing that's growing, and it's such an odd choice.
Yeah,
like it's not like, oh, her hair grows, although she, her hair is straight, it's not curly. It usually sort of looks like curly hair. But I'm like, somebody in Netflix just decided to license that, and I really hope Jenna Ortega is getting something from that.
Well, quite frankly, if it really is a Wednesday chia pet, you should grow the chia pet and then never water it so it dies.
And then
you'll just see this dead lump sitting in front of her, which I think she'd prefer to look at.
Or if it was like chia pet, but deadly nightshade or something to that.
Exactly.
But I'm sure there's a problem with packaging those seeds.
I used to always say that I would not buy a chia pet until they made a Lincoln, because I wanted that big beard. Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah, look at that. There she is.
Yep.
Yeah, there
you go. All about Doctor Who. Anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, I went off the. I just decided to go off road for a short period.
Yeah, that's fine.
What did you think of this? Because we'll defer to you. I mean, I've been watching Doctor Who for a while, but I haven't repeatedly watched the new ones the way you have. So, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, it took me back to when they were together, 15 years ago. So. That was really cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, Leo mentioned that it was a different tone from last week. Number one, you weren't here last week, so did you like last week's show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What for you made this different? This week, or didn't it? Wasn't it different? Did it remind you of any other previous episodes?
Maybe when they first found each other again. So season 4. Episode 1, when they were doing the adipose and they were just missing each other, but then they finally ran into each other.
Right.
Kind of like the hijinks like that.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that the issue of the slow robot, which I really kind of liked the slow robot. I
liked the slow robot too.
Yeah.
I would love to have like a replica of that.
Yeah. But the idea of what that turns out to be and why it's moving so slowly in the end was an interesting twist. Because, to be honest with you, I kind of found the alien versions of themselves just really creepy and kind of gross.
Yeah. Oh, they were very creepy.
Yeah.
Arms are too long.
Yeah. That Doctor Who does dabble with the horror, although not like full, because they're literally, the whatchamacallit, the angels, the weeping angels, definitely have a horror movie vibe to them. There's a fair bit of horror in Doctor Who. It's not like hopeless, because they might, some, guest stars of the week might, perish. Usually a soldier or something like that.
Right.
Will get zapped by whatever the creature is until the Doctor figures out what's going on.
Well, the episode with the library.
Yeah.
That was pretty creepy, with the skull faces inside the spacesuits. And
a friend of mine who is British, and he's of the age where he watched Doctor Who back in the day.
Right.
When he was a young boy. He said sometimes I would have to hide behind the couch to watch. He would get freaked out by it. And you didn't quote an episode, but there have been a lot of Doctor Who episodes with a sort of a creepy vibe. And this one also reminded me a little of John Carpenter's The Thing. The idea is like who's real, because the Doctor and Donna are replicated by these two, what turns out to be aliens of some kind. And they keep running around and get separated, and like who's with who, and they're trying to figure it out. And there's a scene where all 4 in the room, we were like, is this what the Doctor says something, and then the other Doctor is like, well, that's just what I would have said. Now, again, they start arguing like, is that what you would have said if because you're trying to imitate me, or because it's one of these, it's almost comedic if if it wasn't so terrifying.
Yeah,
they're in this crazy long spaceship, which is beyond the edge of the universe. It's like black, and so there's definitely that creepy vibe to it. It's like he'd never been this far out in any of his previous.
But I like there was a moment where they get to basically the bridge.
Yeah,
he sees the chair and he goes, "Oh well, that's good. We know the aliens have a bum, or something like that. Because they needed a chair to sit in. But I don't know. It was interesting because I kind of watched this episode in bits because my life has been kind of crazy, and so I didn't have time. We all sat down to watch it together, and I was so exhausted I fell asleep.
Yeah, you watched it through your eyelids.
I did watch it through my eyelids. So I only saw the first half. Then I went back to watch it again, and I got about halfway through it, and again, because I had been working all day long, I was exhausted. I got tired, and I thought, well, I'll finish it later. I will say that I don't know that it grabbed me in the same way as the first episode did. But then when I ended up finishing it, I ended up really liking it. So,
it's a bit of a slow burn.
Cool. I thought that the alien was kind of neat. The one that was really the captain of the ship. Yeah,
there's this alien body floating because they talked about how the airlock was opened up like 3 years ago and then closed.
Right.
And the person, Doctor and Don, think, oh, they came in that time. No, but it was the captain's going in rather than let them take over the ship. They are bad aliens. Spoilers. They want to create sort of like fear, and because if we find out like when you're feared and you're thinking faster, they can absorb more of your memories, and replace you, and then, presumably cause more chaos as they go. But this alien was bipedal, but the skull looked like a horse skull. And this is a bit, depending on what your fandom is, it's either a deep dive or not a deep dive. There's a character in the Thor comics called Beta Ray Bill. Is this alien who he fights, but he picks up Mjolnir, not Mjolnir, but actually the cane, when he used to stamp the cane and turn to the Thor before, they decided to get rid of that. Right. He slams it and then he becomes like effectively Thor. And he had this very long, sort of like he was an alien who, evolved from horses, presumably, or something like, and so he had this long face that came out like so, and it just reminded me of that. I very much doubt that was necessarily an influence for the writers or the designers, but it just put that in mind for me. Well, he was also in a big ship, much like that.
That's a a lot of times you see reptilian aliens.
Yeah.
There's certain things that, simian, alien, but horses you don't see very often. So that was
you don't. Although, what was it? Gene, what's the name of the rhinoceros people?
The Jadoon.
Jadoon, yes.
They're great.
They're terrific. Sort of, they're a little bit like the Suntarans in that they don't seem to be terribly imaginative.
Right.
Very, I'm quite certain the Jadoon and the Suntarans have had numerous wars, because if they haven't, they're going to.
Yeah.
But they're trying to figure out, because they're trying to remember, like, it's sort of interesting because they're sort of reestablishing their friendship, and as they're questioning these doppelgangers, they're realizing there's stuff they don't know about, like, because they've lived these other lives since, quite literally lives in the Doctor's case,
right?
And they're trying to find out who especially who the Doctor is, because there's, when she did her, Dr. Donna thing, the previous episode, she absorbed all this knowledge, including the mystery of the Doctor's origin, which is still, he's extra, or they're extra dimensional of some kind. And and is the basis how Gallifrey had the regenerations and the Time Lords, and presumably the Doctor keeps coming back and maybe like losing their memory. I want to say they because the Doctor is very would say gender fluid at this point in the show.
Yes.
So interesting.
A joke about it.
Yeah. Because Donna makes a joke about somebody being handsome, and he's like, "Yeah, he is."
Yeah. What was that? Who I am now? She's always near.
Yeah.
It was always near the
surface. I'm coming. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because they in the very like in the cold open they run into Sir Isaac Newton, who was played by a young handsome actor who has his moment where he's sitting under a tree and hit by an apple. But that's a result of the and then the TARDIS shows him. It gets lodged at the top of the tree. Yeah. And they say mavity instead of gravity, or Donna says. And he says it later in the episode. So it makes me wonder if in the Doctor Who universe, the term gravity is now mavity.
Well, there is one point where he actually says gravity and she looks at him and he goes, "Oh, mavity." Like he does say gravity at one point. Yeah. There's another point where they're saying something about a field of mavity. But yeah, I was wondering that too. Yeah, the guy, the Isaac Newton, was definitely rocking the romance novel hair.
Yeah, he had this long, luxurious locks, and he was a young, fit dude. He might be known in Britain. I can't say I recognize him, but that means nothing.
Because the actor,
because sometimes though, like celebrities, Doctor Who is a British icon in the same way that James Bond is. This is like they did one Doctor Who. It was for Fox TV, like before Fox was the way it is now, and they had like an American guy playing the Doctor. It was it's non-canonical, but they did do a thing, and nobody watched it. I don't think. I don't know if it's available anywhere. It might be on YouTube somewhere. But Doctor, a very quintessentially British character.
Oh yeah.
So much like Batman on the old Batman TV show, when it's like Sammy Davis Jr. pokes his head out of a window as Batman and Robin are climbing over the side of a building. Because like all these celebrities, like just get me on that show. Like I don't have to be. I could just stick my head out. I'll play myself.
That's cool.
So I would imagine if you're a British actor, it's probably a bit of a feather in your cap to say you were in an episode of Doctor Who.
Sure.
Maybe if you have kids, to be like, oh, dad's going to be, or mom's going to be on Doctor Who. Don't blink.
As you and I learned, Leo, when we went to go work on that film in London back in the late 80s or early 90s, the British theatrical community is very tight-knit.
It is.
So people know each other because it's like this tight-knit club. So it's kind of cool, I think.
If anybody who is watching, and you know who the actor who played Sir Isaac Newton is, and if he's somebody who has a degree of fame across the pond, let us know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It is the holidays. I think we're fighting against parties and Christmas specials and
maybe. Well,
the stress of the holidays.
We have 3 people watching right now.
Oh, excellent! Say hello, hello people.
No, but no comment yet, so feel free to comment.
But it was interesting because it was both horror and there were some funny moments, because you always have to have some funny moments. You can't just be relentless like but it was.
What was especially funny to you? I'm
broke down.
When the cart broke down? Yeah.
When it just like fell apart.
Yeah, when it fell apart.
I look at it like, okay.
Yeah, I do kind of wonder how he knew that cart would be there by stamping on that part of the floor. But
well, he's the Doctor.
Yeah,
it would be, unless they did the. I mean, obviously they wouldn't do the show in real time, but then they cut to them being like, yeah. But they got to have a nice, like a fun sort of little chase scene with that little floating cart. So like a floating golf cart, or like one of those cars, like you see like a security guard, like bopping around in like a community.
It made me think of the one that Austin Powers gets stuck in the hallway and in that kind of ridiculous scene. But
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But obviously all that was CG because it's
Yes.
they're not going to build this enormous 3-mile set. But it's I like the design of it. It had that they when they're crawling around in the vents, which any kind of an episode like that, you have to crawl around in the vents.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, because
yeah.
So, but it's interesting because Doctor Who used to be a much more practical. I mean, not that they didn't have special effects, but they were more practical. And as a result, some of the stuff was a little, janky. They didn't have a huge budget, and they didn't really have the technology back in the day.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's what struck you? Okay, I can feel like I'm talking so much, Gino. What was there anything that really struck you about this episode? Something you loved, or maybe something you didn't like?
But I like when he bent over backwards. That was pretty cool. When they did the.
Yeah, they did.
It was still creepy though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, that was.
But didn't you have a story about the? There was something about the stunt guy.
Yeah, I saw a behind the scene video on Facebook or something of the stunt double bending over backwards like that, and then David Tennant looks at the camera and says, "They really bend over backwards for the show." I don't know.
He's a dad now, so he gets to do dad jokes.
Yeah.
That he hasn't. I mean, he doesn't look exactly the way he did back in the day.
No,
but he's kept himself in shape. It's not like he just suddenly.
He looks better now than he did at the 50th. I'll say that.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, he looked not so good.
But he's looking a little. Like you could tell, his face is a little more lined now, which is okay. Again, this is not criticism, but it's interesting. And I do, as we talked about briefly last week, is when Donna sees him before she, knows who he is.
Right.
And she's like, you may wear a suit that tight up to 30 and no further.
Yeah.
That line.
Which was, terrific. But it's because he didn't really wear a suit. He wears a vest or a waistcoat if you're a Brit.
Right.
He doesn't wear a jacket. He wears the long coat, waistcoat, shirt and tie, pants. So it's a similar but not identical look to his old.
Yeah, it's a little variant on it.
I think it's like an Inside Out version or something like that. I read.
Maybe.
Did I read that? I don't know. Articles on Facebook or whatever is not funny.
But you're saying that was I
think so. I think it was a design.
A choice,
yeah.
design choice.
Yeah,
interesting. Well, I noticed that. Yeah, because I noticed that actually in the very end of the episode, he's wearing a dark coat that reminded me more of Capaldi's coat.
Maybe. Well, you know what was interesting in the episode where Jodie Whittaker becomes David Tennant again at the end of the episode. What was interesting is the Doctor had a brand new outfit, or the one he's wearing currently now. And usually when Doctor Who regenerates, the body regenerates, but they're still in whatever they were wearing before.
Right.
And then they decide, need a new fashion look. And then they do have a bit about that. They go off stage, some clothes get thrown out. He'd be like, what do you think of this? I'm like, no, back and forth. But the clothing, it was sort of an odd choice, I thought, just because they hadn't done that before.
Right.
But
maybe they, I don't know.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen Tennant in Jodie Whittaker's outfit, just because it would have been funny.
But it's not.
But I guess they wanted it to be more dramatic.
And there's that, but also, it's not like her outfit was particularly feminine anyway.
No, it was the sort of the high water pants and the suspenders and that sort of jumper kind of thing. Yeah, there you go. So in the jacket, I think he might want to change, but obviously it's not like he's in a ball gown suddenly, which might not fit him.
I always liked it.
Yeah.
She looked I have to say, of all the Doctors, she had the most comfortable outfit.
She did. And the interesting thing is, I felt that one of the things I liked about, and we talked about this briefly, I think, last week, but one of the things I liked about Jodie Whittaker's performance was she actually felt like part of David Tennant was coming through in the way she played that character.
She had a lot of the same like kind of positive enthusiasm.
Where and it's a shame that she didn't have the writing that previous Doctor.
Yeah, I listen. I feel bad saying this because I quite like the actress and I liked all the companions, and there were some good episodes. There's the Christmas special, which was in the storage facility, which was with the Daleks, which was a good one.
Right.
But I don't know. Like there was a whole bunch in her first season where they were just like, they'd be like, "Oh, we're in space. Nope, we're on Earth." It felt like that happened a lot. Like there was a lot of Earth stuff, and I understand doing stuff on Earth is cheaper, probably, but it just.
It also felt, yes, they didn't have a lot of extraterrestrial adventures, and also it just felt a little preachy to me too. But that's
I don't really remember that, but it just felt like
everything seemed to be, we're gonna teach you a lesson today about something, and I don't know. At any rate, but yeah, I do like her quite a bit, and I liked the way she played the Doctor. So, and you're right, there were some cool companions. I knew right off the bat that, what was her name? What is she, from Pakistan or from India? Yasmin. I knew off the bat that Yasmin was going to have a big thing for her.
Yas was great. I liked them all. I think Dan, who was her last companion, not her last, but her last new companion, was great. I liked him a lot.
I like the older couple.
Yeah. There's a lot of there were some good stuff. It's just that I think it started out a little weak, but I think it got better as it went on. And the last episode with the Master returning as Rasputin was
that was funny.
It was.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I know that the Doctor will end up okay. But you still you're like, how are they going to get out of this one?
Yeah.
But
and this was an interesting episode that way, because even up to the last second, he had the wrong Donna.
Yeah, because the ship turns out everything's running very slowly. There's spoilers as we hit the halfway part of our show. Is that it was the self-destruct, but it was set up so slowly. So because these aliens could only pick up on like quick thoughts,
right?
And the previous captain killed themselves. And once they figured it out, they were like, "Oh, we got to stop it." And this robot was like slowly going down the hallway. And once, because the TARDIS disappeared because it detected basically a very dangerous situation. Although it seems like, unlike every other time the Doctor shows up, every place the Doctor shows up is dangerous.
Yeah.
But because I guess it had to repair itself, it wanted to get.
I think it's because it was repairing itself. Yeah, that's my take on it.
I liked when he put his sonic in there in the keyhole to start that all up. It was interesting because he couldn't just scan, somebody and be like, "Oh, you're fake,"
Right.
So
that's what I was saying. This was an episode where he didn't have that advantage. He didn't have the advantage, and that's a different tone because he always pretty much has that.
Yeah.
With him, so it was, it put him in a more challenging position because he didn't have the sonic there. Yeah. Interesting. What do you think? I mean, we're what are we at here? We're only a half hour into the episode, but what was that about? And maybe you know better than I do. At the end, when he's talking to Donna and he's talking about the 15 years, and he's talking about how a lot of stuff has happened, but he doesn't really want to tell her about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's curious to know if she knows about it. Well, what was he referring to?
Just throughout his, from the 12th Doctor on.
Okay, but there wasn't any great big dramatic thing then, huh, that I missed out on somehow.
No, it's just the one storyline about the timeless child or whatever. But I think they're scrapping that from what I've read.
Oh, that's interesting.
It made no friggin' sense whatsoever. I still don't understand it. And you know me, I love the friggin' show.
Yeah, well, I know you do. Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't a big Capaldi fan, so I missed some of that. And then
I think Capaldi was quite a good doctor. I liked him.
Well, yeah,
it was a nice change of tone because he was a little older, a little grumpier.
Right.
But always with a heart of gold, because the doctor always has a heart of gold.
And I need to go back and look at those. I need to go back and look at those and to finish Whittaker's series. But
well, I'm never watching them again. So
why not? Oh,
of course I will watch them.
Yeah, I know.
Are you kidding me? Any chance to watch Doctor Who over again, I will.
Yeah. Well, you go through.
I go through phases.
Phases.
Yeah, once a year, I pretty much watch the series.
Yeah.
From beginning to now.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'll show up and there's Eccleston on the TV, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go again.
Grabbing Rose by the hand, saying, "Run."
Yeah.
So wrap from there.
Yeah. But there was something else at the end I was going to bring up too.
I guess the thing is because the ship's about to blow up, so it's sort of the TARDIS can return now.
Right,
and it does show up, and Tennant jumps in it because there's this giant long corridor which is the middle of the ship, and he's using it like a skateboard, I
love that when he's pedaling down the hallway with it.
And there's two Donnas. There's the fake Donna and the real Donna, and he asked her a question about her daughter's teacher. I think was Mrs. Bean. Was that the name?
I guess
it was something like teacher. Donna's choir teacher.
Choir teacher.
Donna's choir teacher.
Yeah.
And they were discussing how it's they're singing the song "Wild Blue Yonder," and they were like, "Well, it's a war song." And there's some controversies, they would say, at the school about it. It is the U.S. Used to be the Army Air Corps, but now the Air Force. That is their anthem, I believe.
Yeah.
So he asks a question. They each give a different answer, and Doctor grabs one, pulls them into the TARDIS, but it's the wrong one, as we find out, because he's around flipping switches and being all manic. The ship now has all those great walkways, and it's a bit like an Apple store, in that respect.
Yeah, well, it is all white.
Yeah. And the real Donna is left on the spit, and she's looking at these explosions coming closer to her.
I was like, my heart was in.
But then the doctor realized that she had an extra bone in her wrist or something.
No, her wrist was 0.06 bigger than.
Yes.
Donna or something. Yeah.
When you have a character who's the smartest man in any room he goes into.
Yeah, this time though.
That's a Sherlockian deduction there. But he goes back and he throws her out, fake Donna, and gets the real Donna and brings her back.
With the ejector hallway.
Yes.
Yeah, like a big slide goes up and yeah.
So Donna gets out, skin of her teeth, and they take off and they go back. And they were talking about Will, if I disappear, my grandfather's going to be there. He's going to be with a sleeping bag and a lawn chair and a thermos of tea, and he'll be, he won't leave. And sure enough, they get there, and it's Wilf. Wilf is sitting there. The last appearance of Bernard Cribbins.
Yes,
it was shot last year, in 2022, before his untimely passing.
Yeah,
and Tennant comes out, "Me old soldier," and it's a lovely little reunion, and then you find out that Earth is a mess because apparently, everybody goes manic, goes nuts, at the drop of a hat. I think it's almost like these explosions of insanity and violence.
Yeah.
So, what that's about?
Now, is this the episode that we're going to see that has David Hyde Pierce as the villain?
It's not David Hyde Pierce. It's Doogie Howser. David.
Yeah, I'm mixing them up again.
I mean, David Hyde Pierce would make an excellent Doctor Who villain, to be sure.
I know he would, but not what it is. It's oh Christ, I can't think of his name now.
Well, his first name was David, but he was Doogie Howser.
Yeah,
as well as long run on How I Met Your Mother.
Right.
He's playing the Toy Master, I believe, is the character's name, or the Toy Maker.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris. I don't know why I thought there was a David in there. Anyway,
yeah.
I was kind of enjoying watching you guys. For a little bit.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, get your joy where you can.
Yeah.
I'm only here like once in a while. So,
yeah, that's true.
These kids,
But I believe the character is called the Toy Maker, and I don't think I've seen any of those episodes. It's a previous Doctor Who villain.
I was going to ask you that.
Watch the original either.
Yeah, so, I was going to ask you about that. If that was,
I don't know. I haven't seen all of the Bakers, although those are the first ones I saw back in the day.
Right.
And they used to be. They would have a narrator, like an American narrator, be like, because they would each episode was about a half hour. They showed 2 episodes Saturday morning on a local station, Channel 9 here in New York. And it was the actor who, again, I can't remember his name, but he played Ben Franklin in 1776. And he did the narration for that. The doctor's in real pickle. How is he going to get out of it, or something like, something to that effect, because I guess Americans can't cope with, a cohesive narrative. I don't know. I don't know what
it's like dubbing Mad Max, because we wouldn't be able to understand the accent. But,
yeah.
Anyway.
Even the hero's back, Max.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting because what's interesting about a lot of Doctor Who villains is a lot of them are ultimately sympathetic. They're, not all of them, but a lot of them, it feels like that you sort of start realizing, they're kind of really messed up beings.
Yeah.
There are a few that are, the Daleks are clearly not to be trusted, or the Cybermen.
No, but you've had some episodes with very sympathetic individual Dalek.
Yeah, well, there was, again, at the Jodie Whittaker's last episode, there was a Dalek who was basically betraying its people, legitimately. It wasn't it wasn't a prick. It gets, zapped, and I forgot, it was some horrible fate. I'm trying to remember it now. It wasn't it was worse than just killing it. It was something like that. Anyway.
Yeah.
But there have been, but generally speaking, there are a lot of people who are especially the Christmas specials, which are very, while they do have their villains, like the woman who wanted to be Queen of the Cybermen, and that, when David Tennant was getting all emo, or I should say the 10th Doctor, he's like, I can't have any more companions, but a lot of them, you were like, I kind of see why you're like the Christmas Carol episode with Matt Smith,
right?
With it was Michael Gambon was the Scrooge like figure on this alien planet.
Yes.
So yeah, interesting. It's again, it's generally speaking a more hopeful show than I wouldn't say all American sci-fi is kind of grim.
Yeah,
but there's this note of sweetness in Doctor Who that I think is a very particularly British quality, which is interesting because Britain's history is not really that kind of vibe.
No.
As anybody,
let's look at this, right? So, and I loved her character, but the woman that becomes the prime minister.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, what's her name? Harriet Jones.
Harriet Jones, right?
Yeah.
So in that end of that sort of Harriet Jones arc is when she ends up using Torchwood to destroy the alien ship as it's departing.
Yeah.
And you're right. That was very sort of kind of British and kind of government paranoia.
It's
very un-Doctor Who.
But she is punished because she's like then forced to resign.
Yeah.
But it was a very Margaret Thatcher-esque move.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because her character was much more sympathetic. She became the prime minister. She was a minister, like she was either in the cabinet or like she was.
I think she was Minister of Education
or something like. Yeah, she was. She had a ministry job, like a high posting, but not the top of the heap. But a bunch of people got killed and she became prime minister because she rose to the occasion.
Right.
And she was voted in, I think, under emergency circumstances. But then they, apparently she was like, it's interesting because, like, if you remember the first appearance of Torchwood on Doctor Who was a Tennant episode, and it was set in Scotland, and Queen Victoria there was there, and there were werewolves, and it was one of these crazy things.
Yeah.
And she thanks the Doctor, but she's basically like, I have to establish Torchwood to protect Great Britain against alien invasion. He's like, what? Wait, which was sort of counter to his whole vibe.
Right.
And I was a big fan of the Torchwood TV show, which was much darker
Yes.
than Doctor Who.
I watched it.
I quite enjoy. I like the cast on that.
Yep.
It's interesting because around that time there was the Sarah Jane Mysteries, I think it was called, because one of Tom Baker's most well-known and popular companions was Sarah Jane Smith.
Right.
The actress has since passed away, which is quite sad. But they did a spinoff, and she appeared on Doctor Who, and she's basically like, you know what my life was like after you left. Like, there's a lot of these companions are kind of like, just imagine having like the most glamorous, like incredible, not even glamorous, but this exciting life, and then suddenly, like, they regenerate or they take off, and then you never see them again, and it's not like you can't look up the Doctor on Facebook. I'm fairly sure.
Yeah.
Good at ghosting, or they're good at ghosting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good at ghosting.
Although Sarah Jane ended up keeping K9.
Yeah, K9, JK9, the robot dog who is terrific. Very good, master. He but they had this spinoff show, and that was like very much geared to a younger audience because she had like these three kids who were sort of like solving mysteries with her. They were like all about 14, 15, I think.
Yeah, I tried getting Charlotte to watch it, but no go.
Nah, whatever. It's
I tried
and
I just couldn't.
So that was very much geared to a younger audience, and then Doctor Who was like a little like it was interesting. I think it was a Tennant episode. I think the one with Adipose that you mentioned before.
Yeah,
like the Doctor's trying to get information from this woman in an office about some, and this woman is definitely like flirting with him very seriously, and then he gets all very flustered and leaves. And the Doctor is weirdly, especially in his earlier incarnations, you never got the impression like Doctor was, DTF. He had larger concerns. But he never really had any romances. I mean, I'm not saying they aren't. I just haven't. If they did, I haven't seen those episodes.
Yeah.
The only real romance was with Rose Tyler. And it's interesting, as I said, and we talked about in that last Whittaker episode where they have the support group and they're all like coming in and sharing their stories. They're like, I got nobody to tell. Like, I had all these amazing adventures. Who am I going to tell? Everybody's going to think I'm crazy.
Right.
And it was nice for them to find that sort of way. But it's like, it is a little weird because the Doctor does tend to abandon people, and not in a malicious way, but, in the way, I guess, if you live thousands, if not millions of years, it's, your perspective is different, but it does feel like a lot of people are like, hey man, you look the same, you look either the same or much younger, completely different. And I've gotten older, and it's not, there's got to be some resentment towards that. One
episode that really actually had very little of David Tennant in it, but the one about the guy who keeps trying to find the Doctor, and he has that group, and they all get together and they play ELO songs together.
Yeah.
That was kind of a cool episode, and it really had there was 10 in it. But it was sort of about that. It was about people who
had brief,
because they sort of knew that this person existed, like a conspiracy theory almost.
Yeah. It's interesting, given how on Doctor Who, so many times a alien spaceship crashes, either hovers over London or crashes in London. Yeah. They've been invaded by Daleks and Cybermen and all this stuff. You think all that would be common knowledge now. Like people would be like, ugh, fucking Daleks again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's
well, I guess that's why they have unit and things like that.
Yeah. But it's funny because they were playing hush hush, like, oh, there's a. I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is not their first rodeo, London, with alien, incursions.
Yeah, they've had robot Santas
attacking
everybody, the mannequins, all kinds of things. The big star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff centered around London. But it's funny you were talking about that one of the conspiracy group. One of the one who the character we're following in that story.
Yeah.
They sort of strike up a bit of romance, this young woman who's in the group with them. And there was the same actress who played Moaning Myrtle in Harry Potter. And she was like 35 when she was not like a teen, like a young teen actor,
right?
Even though her character was supposed to be like a schoolgirl, but she had a youthful face, and there was she was made to look like a ghost. So it probably I wasn't like, oh, that's a 30-year-old, but I was like looking at her like, oh yeah, no, she was considerably older than most of the cast.
Had a bit of a cheeky joke at the end too.
Yeah.
For British television.
Okay.
Well, you don't want to bring up the joke at the end?
No, that's okay.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
Her face is just stuck in there.
Yeah, honey.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't want to? Okay, never mind. This show gets raunchy. You do know that, right?
Maybe it's time for me to go check on this.
My virgin the blue segment. It's going to get as blue as the TARDIS in here.
There you go.
I do like this. Actually, I like the new opening credits. They're very dynamic in a way that we haven't seen because we usually just see like the TARDIS spin and they do that. I
like it a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. But you know what's funny? There is a clip, I guess, from BBC Radio where they, I guess, did a concert. And at the end of the concert, because the music is different too. I don't know whether you noticed that or not, but the music has been
rearranged,
reorchestrated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever this orchestra is ends up performing that at the end. And I got to tell you, there is I'll have to send you the clip. I should have had it on the show. Maybe I'll have it on next week. There's a woman playing a cello really joyfully.
Yeah.
And she looks so much like Angela. It's not funny. And I'm sitting there watching it for a second thinking, wait, I didn't know Angela played the cello.
If she has a secret life as a
cellist in London.
A cellist in London.
Yeah. Or Wales.
Time to come clean.
Wales, I think. But yeah. She's just beaming back and forth.
It's like Cardiff, where Torchwood was set, is where they shoot a lot of Doctor Who.
Yes.
I can do the Doctor Who tour at some point. That's on my bucket list.
To go to England and
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Merry old England. So yeah, there's I enjoy this episode. It's because it had a fair bit of running about, as most Doctor. It's rare to have a Doctor Who episode where they don't have to run from something or to something at any given point.
No, but do you think it was interesting? This is a point I meant to bring up. He comes up with this idea as to how to defeat the aliens because he knows that they are increasing their knowledge because of them thinking.
Right.
So he tells Donna, don't think. And he's trying also not to think. And that's impossible for him.
Oh, yeah.
his mind is constantly going.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the way the Doctor has been. Well, I don't know about the original show, but I always thought that he was constantly thinking. So it's interesting. That was kind of a funny little test there that he.
And it was, and she's like, "You're thinking." He's like, "No, I'm not." And then he's clearly lying.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he just.
Well, both of the alien guys are out because they were both at them going, why? And David Tennant's like, these are good questions. Yeah, why? Why? And then he's like, yeah, I gotta know. I can't help it. I just gotta know.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was a fun bit.
It was. I overall I enjoyed it. It was weirdly an intimate episode because it all took, like, I would say 95% of it took place on the spaceship.
Right.
And it was
only people in it.
And there was really only 2 actors in it.
Right.
You know, or playing, two parts.
Right.
Each. And it's weird because it almost I'm not saying it leaves us nothing to talk about because it clearly doesn't, but because it was there wasn't any, they were meeting somebody new, but in a way not. So there's not like, oh, that's
I wasn't 100% clear on this, but the idea was these aliens were planning on invading our galaxy. Is that what it was? Our universe?
They never felt the sun or something.
Yeah, they were like,
have that light. Like, you shouldn't have that light.
Yeah, they were born at the edge of created born in this void beyond the edge of the universe.
Right.
But they didn't seem like, hey, I just like to what's pizza like? I hear that's good. I just they weren't like just wanted like experience. There seemed to be there was definitely a sinister undertone.
Well, you actually never get to see what they look like. Like, what do they really look like?
I'm glad we don't, because it would be tough to find something that isn't like, you're like, oh, that's kind of like this. It's kind of like, sometimes it's like, I always feel, generally speaking, the monster you don't see is scarier than the monster you do.
Sure. Here's a good question to wrap this up with, guys. What was that business where the Doctor's talking about to Don? He goes, I wish you hadn't done the business with the salt. And she's saying, oh, is this a superstition? And then he says, yes, but out here, space is very thin. What did you think that was all about?
I think that he was almost creating that, like, it's this weird with time travel, you can sort of do this weird causality. Like, was it had it become like a superstition because he did it and she remembered it because it had sort of already happened, him doing it then set off things in the past, where the idea of salt being, because that's the thing with vampires, is they, that is letting you could throw down salt or sand or grains of rice or
it's a witch thing too. You create a circle of salt, right?
Yeah, you can use salt so, but the idea that since existence is sort of weird and maybe not is like, it's just like anything you do or say at that point might reverberate through time, I'm guessing.
Right. I get you. I got you.
Yeah. I mean, at one point he's like, yeah, your house is that way, but it would take you a million trillion years to get there.
Yeah.
So he's saying, I shouldn't have done that because it'll get to Earth eventually, but I just probably created one.
I see.
I don't know if that made sense or not.
Yeah, no.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm just hoping Mavity comes back at some point.
I love that. I might just have to start saying that now.
Well, guys, is there any last thoughts on either this episode or what's coming up next? The next episode, or
I don't really know. I haven't really seen too much on the next episode.
I've not seen too much. I've seen an image of Neil Patrick Harris in his costume. I'm
David.
Yes, David Hyde Pierce / Neil Patrick Harris. and he's two named actors.
I like to watch it flail.
There you go. Yeah.
But
Sean was going to come on tonight and give you shit, and I told him not to.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So.
But
whether
I'm
he's
looking forward to it. It's I think it should be interesting, whatever it turns out to be.
Yeah.
And it is because then we're going to get the Christmas Day special, which is good. And we're going to get our new doctor, who may show up at the end. I suspect we might see him at the very end of this next episode.
I would think so,
because that's sort of how they do it. Is like they do the new actor, and then they're like, "Am I a ginger?" Nope.
Yeah.
And they, and then we'll be off to the races for the Christmas special, and then we have to wait till I guess spring for the new episodes.
Yeah, that's what I read.
That's okay.
I was kind of hoping that it was going to pop sooner, and then we could go right into series on Doctor Who. But well,
there's still plenty of Star Trek to dive into.
I know.
We were talking about doing some episodes on TNG, which we've really not done much about.
Yes,
we've referenced it, but we haven't
recommended that to me because he's a big TNG fan.
So we there's plenty to dig in there.
I was gonna let you guys wrap it up.
Yeah, no.
All right.
Part of the show. You're in the title.
All right.
You're in the credits, for Christ's sake. All right.
Hey, it's a school day tomorrow.
It is a school day tomorrow. Hey, listen, I'm going to roll us out of here. Leo, as always, great to see you. Gina, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully, we will see you again next week.
Maybe.
That would be nice. Yeah, that would be nice.
We'll see.
Just to finish this out, it'd be great to have you for this one and the Christmas one. We're not going to do it on Christmas, obviously. I'll be opening my voluminous presents that I'm going to get this year.
We should figure that out.
Yeah, I know. But at any rate, all right, guys, have a wonderful evening. We will see you next week for the third and final installment in this special miniseries. And then...
well, it's not that. It's the penultimate because we will also be doing the Christmas episode.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
This is the last Tennant return episode.
Yes. And I don't think... Wait a minute. I got to look at something here. Yes, Leo, because we will be filming the next episode on the 14th. I want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Your birthday, Leo's birthday is the 13th. So
yes,
anybody who wants to send good wishes to Leo, send them his way in the comments. But yes, so.
Oh, and Penny's is coming up on Monday.
Oh yes, and little Penny, who used to dance at the beginning, hers is on the 11th.
Big 5.
Yeah. So at any rate, all right, guys, have a wonderful week.
You too.
We'll see you all next time.
Bye. How long?
How long?